Alright guys, welcome to another Autronics video. Today we're working on this Ps4 Slim. Now I have powered this up so it's turned on onto the TV. The power's on and everything. So what I've noticed with this one here, so if I plug the controller in, and then I'll show you what it actually does. It doesn't sync the controller onto the console. So if we've got that powered up, right, and then that's there. So if I grab the controller and I press that, it doesn't sync to the PlayStation at all. So now at this stage, if you have this problem, what do? So first thing, the basic thing here for you to do is disconnect that cable and try another cable. So let's try this one. See if I can plug this in. Yep, so that's plugged in. Because what happens with some cables, they are missing the RX and the TX cable, which is the data line, the data plus and data negative lines. They only have the positive and the negative power lines. So let's try this one. Still nothing. Okay, so let's pull this apart and then I'll show you how to fix this. So what I'll do is I'll tear all this out, get rid of the casing, and then I have the motherboard there, and then I'll show you how to fix this. Okay, so there we are. We've got the board out of the PlayStation, and the board number is SAD001. Now, so this is the board that we'll be working on. So most will be wondering, why are you working on the board when it could simply just be a controller issue or a cable issue, right? So if you think about it, if you connect the controller through via the USB here with a cable onto the controller and you turn it on, it still doesn't sync. However, it still works on the safe mode. That tells you that the USB is getting power, so it cannot be the USB controller. The USB controller is responsible for giving out the voltages to the USB in order to charge the device that's plugged into it, right? So I didn't even know this earlier as well, but I came to know that the USB, once it's connected to the device, it actually is working through Wi-Fi and Bluetooth to connect the signal to the controller, right? So in order to determine that, the problem lies in the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi module, which is located here. So this is the one that controls all your Wi-Fi functions and the Bluetooth functions, either if it's a microphone or if it's the controller or if it's a headset. So that's the chip there, and that's the one we'll be extracting. Now I don't have this in stock, so but what I have is I have a donor board which I'm going to take the chipset out of and remove this one and then solder that one onto here. So if I can get this to focus here. Okay, I don't think. Okay, it doesn't seem to want to focus. But anyways, I've gone ahead and remove this one here, which is basically the chipset that's needing to go on there. The code on this one reads model number J208091, and I don't know if that's going to focus as well. So I've extracted that from this board here, and I'm going to extract this one, take that one out and put this one there. So bear with me while I get my PCB holder all set up and ready to go, and then we can go from there. Right, so there we are. We've got the motherboard that we need to extract this out of on the PCB holder here. So I already have this one here that I'm going to use to replace this. So I'll show you how to do this. What I'm going to use is hot air station, as well as a little bit of flux. And so what I do with this flux is I just insert it here. The flux that I use is Kingbo flux, and that's the flux that I use. It's just in a syringe, and I apply that across the edges here. The air temperature that I'm using is 400 degrees Celsius at 100 milliliters of air. And so here's my hot air station, and what I do is I Let's zoom you guys in. Yep, I've got this aluminium foil tape here, which they are the connectors here that are plastic, which may melt if I continually apply too much heat to this area. So this is the way that I do it. Doesn't take too long. You just apply the heat all the way around, taking your time and just being very careful. Grab my tweezers. Just work your way around. Oops. You'll start to see the solder change color, and that's when you know that it's ready to come off. So work it around. Okay, let's try that. Yep, you can see how it's moving. And then what I do then is I use my tweezers, and then there you go. That's it, that's out of the board. That's the ball grid at the bottom of it. And that's it there. At this point you don't want to touch the motherboard at all. Just leave it as is. Don't shake anything, don't move anything. It is a little bit unsafe to do so. So there we are, that's the bit we did. That's the old one, and that's the new one. So the ball grid at the bottom of it is very similar, or rather the same. And now what we have to do is put this one away so I don't get confused with what's what. And then I'll reflow this, and then I'll show you how to go from there. Okay, so now when it's cooled down, I've got the chip here, and I'm going to clean this up. So I'll apply a little bit of flux here first. Okay, and then what I like to do is just use the soldering iron and just move that flux around. Right, and then I use my solder wick, and the one that I use is the Goot style, so which is this one here, and this can be found at JCar very easily. And so just apply on here, use that, just move it around just like so. And it just takes off all of the old solder that's on here. And so there, I use one finger to hold it, and let's turn this around. Let's cut off the tip a little bit. Okay, same thing. Yeah, just like that. Just make sure that you get all of the solder off before doing anything. I can lean it against that. My jig doesn't want to hold this chipset, so I'm having to use this way. I just ensure to go over it once more and get off all of that old solder. Cut off again. A little bit more flux. Just ensure that you get a good clean surface to work with. Many times I've seen if the surface isn't good, the solder doesn't take too. Right. Okay. Yep, I'm happy with that. And that's what it looks like, nice and clean. So leave this aside. And now what I do is I just use a little bit of flux on top of this again. And then I grab my clean tip soldering iron. And I grab a little bit of solder. Again, just work that flux around. What I like to do is just on here, just apply minimal amount, not too much, just like that. Just work your way around, don't rush. There is a stencil that you can buy for this, but I don't have that. And I find that at times I've used it and it's been inaccurate. It just yeah, if you have the stencil it makes it easier, but I prefer this method here. Just go over some of them because I feel there's not. Okay, I'm happy with that. Yep. Now I have to clean it, and that's what it looks like. Let's give it a good clean. I have lost my brush. Here it is. All I use is just a small tiny brush, isopropyl, JK again. Spray in here, spray in there. I can hold it and show you. A little bit more. Again, final pass over. Alright, so that's what it looks like. Yeah, Okay, so there's just one area, that middle one here, that I'm a little bit unhappy with, which is this one right here. Let's get that one sorted out. That. Looks good. Touch up on this one as well. Yep, looks good. Get that clean. All right, now we're looking good. Okay, so that's done. Now we focus on the board. Let's get this out of the way. These out of the way. Bring the board in. Okay, so same thing here. That aluminium tape, there's a connector there which I've protected. And same thing, so apply the flux. Decent amount here. Right. I should be using another tip, but I think that tip, something's wrong with it. It doesn't want to function the way you need it to, so I need to order another one. For time being, this will do. And same thing, solder's applied, and just move, sorry, the flux is applied, and let's just move this flux all the way around the board. What's going on here? Okay, alright, so we're ready, and what we do, just apply that. And just work your way around. Take your time when you're doing this. Off. Flux on here. I need to order that tip. A little bit difficult using this one. Yep, that's what it looks like. Let's move it up. Okay, and just do one more round, just so I can be sure. Usually I don't put the BJ on this side as well. I'll just use one side. Seems to be okay. don't need to have it both sides, because I find it difficult when it's sitting on. Okay, there we are. That's nice and clean. And let's put a bit of isopropyl and clean this area out as well. Okay, okay, how's that looking? Okay, that's looking great. Okay, so now what we do is we grab our new chip and just make sure you get the orientation right. This indent that's here is always on this corner here, and you can't go wrong because there's a mark there. And so let's just try and place this on. See how we do. Okay. Well, I'm just checking if everything's in line, everything's straight. No, I'm just looking if one side is shorter than the other. That looks quite good. Okay, so let's begin. Apply a bit of flux. Okay, and then just going to use this iron to move this flux everywhere. Okay, place this on. That's from my solder tip. Okay, so let's do that. Place that there. Okay, it looks quite good. Okay, so I've got it placed there, and now what we do is all aligned up. Grab my heat gun, 400 degrees again, and what I do is I just go over it. And again, take your time when you're doing this, take your time. Do not rush. You'll see it drop, that's when you know it's sitting in its place. You see the solder change color, and the way I test it, is I'll ever so lightly just give it a nudge, and you see how it bounces back? See how that's bouncing back? And I know that that's done. Okay, now what we do is let it cool down, and then I'll show you with it all done, and then I'll put it back into the machine and we'll test it out. Right, so I've got the console all assembled up. There you are, all back into the machine. And the one thing that I didn't really show, what board was it that I took out the component from, which is this one here. So that's what we removed. and that's the chipset that we changed out, the Wi-Fi Bluetooth module. And the board that it came out of is this one here, which I am struggling to find. Oh, here we go. SAE003 is the board number that this came out of. And so I've got it all plugged up, and let's see how we do. So we turn this on, and I'll remove you from here just so you can see. Let's wait for this to power on, and I've got my controller here. I'll plug the USB cable up shortly. Okay, so we got a sign there. Okay, so now we want to know if this controller is going to work. Remember last time it didn't, so we'll plug this up. Okay, we see our controller. Okay, now we press that. There you go, it's on. So now everything's working, and that's how it works. So now we have to disconnect this cable and see if it still works. Alright, and there you go, it's working. So simply by replacing that Wi-Fi Bluetooth module, we can get the controller to resync to the console, and we can go from there. So hopefully this video has helped somebody out there, and thank you for watching.